A tragedy unfolds. Wayanad Landslides of 2024, the lush green hills of Wayanad, Kerala, turned a somber shade of brown on July 30, 2024. Torrential rains triggered a series of devastating landslides, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The idyllic landscape, once a haven for tourists and locals alike, became a scene of chaos and despair. Homes were reduced to rubble, livelihoods were washed away, and lives were tragically lost. The official death toll stood at 200, a stark reminder of the unforgiving power of nature. The scale of the disaster sent shockwaves throughout India. Rescue workers toiled tirelessly, battling relentless rain and treacherous terrain to reach survivors. The injured were rushed to overcrowded hospitals, their faces etched with trauma and loss. As the rain subsided and the true extent of the devastation became clear, a sense of profound grief settled over the region. The Wayanad landslides were not merely a natural disaster, they were a stark warning of the growing vulnerability of our planet and the urgent need for sustainable development. The Chaliyar's fury, a river's role in disaster. The Chaliyar River, a lifeline for the people of Wayanad, played a tragic role in the disaster. Swollen by days of incessant rainfall, the river breached its banks, transforming into a raging torrent. It surged through villages and towns, carrying with it a deadly cargo of uprooted trees, boulders and debris. The river's fury was amplified by the altered landscape. Heavy rains in 2020 had stripped the land of its protective vegetation, leaving the soil exposed and vulnerable to erosion. With nothing to hold it back, the water carved deep gashes into the earth, further destabilizing the already fragile slopes. The Chaliyar's rampage highlighted the interconnectedness of our ecosystems. The degradation of one element, in this case the loss of vegetation, can have far-reaching and catastrophic consequences on the entire system.
While the immediate trigger for the Wayanad landslides was heavy rainfall, the underlying causes run much deeper. Climate change, with its unpredictable weather patterns and increasingly frequent extreme events, played a significant role. The warming planet has led to a rise in sea levels, warmer air temperatures, and altered precipitation patterns. These changes have resulted in more intense rainfall in many parts of the world, including Kerala. But climate change alone cannot shoulder the blame. Human activities have also contributed significantly to the ecological imbalance in Wayanad. Deforestation, driven by the demand for timber, land for agriculture and urban expansion, has stripped the hills of their natural defences. The once dense forests that acted as sponges, absorbing rainfall and preventing soil erosion, have been replaced by tea and coffee plantations, monoculture farming practices that leave the land vulnerable to landslides.
Section 4. Ignoring the warning signs, a history of neglect. The tragedy in Wayanad is not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of years of environmental neglect and unsustainable development practices. The Western Ghats Ecology Expert Panel, in its 2011 report, had identified the region as ecologically sensitive and highly prone to landslides. The panel had recommended strict regulations on construction activities, quarrying, and deforestation in these areas. However, these recommendations were largely ignored. The lure of economic development fueled by tourism and infrastructure projects often took precedence over environmental concerns. Construction projects were approved in ecologically fragile zones, and quarrying operations continued unabated, weakening the hillsides and making them more susceptible to landslides.
The Wayanad landslides serve as a stark reminder of the urgent need to prioritize sustainable development and environmental conservation. Reforestation efforts are crucial to restoring the ecological balance of the region. Planting native tree species on a large scale can help stabilize slopes, prevent soil erosion, and regulate water flow. However, reforestation alone is not enough. There is a need to provide alternative livelihood opportunities for communities that depend on activities that degrade the environment, such as logging and unsustainable farming practices. Promoting ecotourism, sustainable agriculture, and handicraft industries can create income-generating opportunities while reducing pressure on natural resources.
Section 6. Beyond Wayanad, a global call for sustainable development. The Wayanad tragedy is a microcosm of a global crisis. Climate change and environmental degradation are a threat to communities worldwide, particularly those living in vulnerable ecosystems. The lessons learned from Wayanad underscore the urgent need for a global shift towards sustainable development practices. This includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions, protecting forests and biodiversity, and promoting sustainable consumption and production patterns. The world must heed the warnings of scientists and experts and take decisive action to mitigate the impacts of climate change and prevent future disasters. The time for complacency is over. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more such information on key topics.